Well, we know that anytime you walk across carpet and slippers in the winter and then touch a doorknob, you're most likely going to get a shock. That's an electric interaction between you with one charge and the doorknob with a different charge. According to the electric universe, or EU theory, the same interaction takes place between celestial bodies carrying different charges. When they get close enough, you get quite a reaction. And on this much bigger scale, we can also see the effect on the surrounding plasma as well. If the scale is big enough, these plasma formations could be seen for thousands, if not millions of miles. And if the interacting bodies are big enough, i.e. trillions, maybe quadrillions of charged particles flowing between the two, this interaction could last for a long time. How long? Well, long enough for different civilizations to create entire mythologies that try to make sense of what they are seeing. Now, on first glance, the separate mythologies of ancient civilizations may seem to be different from one another, but they're not. Time and time again, the same themes can be found. They may look different, but at their core, they're the same. The most well-known example is the Great Flood story. Every ancient culture on every continent has this story somewhere in their history. There's also the idea of a Mother Earth goddess who, at some point, turns on her people and rages, always with wild hair. But an even better example is the fiery dragon in the heavens. There is no earthly counterpart to this being. So how is it that separate civilizations come up with the same unearthly creature that has no basis in reality? More on him in a moment. If we look at the multitude of drawings left behind, everything from cave paintings to ancient Egyptian tomb writings to Greek art, we see lots of different symbols that appear in all of them. Things like the Great Wheel of Heaven, the lightning sword, the star in the crescent, the eye in the hand. What is clear is that these pictures and stories handed down to us from long ago are referencing what people witnessed in the heavens. They're never stories of events that happened on the ground, but in the sky. But the things they saw sure aren't there in the sky today. The stories of hellfire raining down from heaven, like is written about in many mythologies, is not something we've experienced. Yeah, lightning from a storm can be scary when you don't know what it is or when it will strike, but I wouldn't put that in the same category as a rain of hellfire. So, exactly what sky were they looking at? How did all of these different cultures document identical heavenly events that have no bearing on what we see today? What if their sky was different than ours? The interesting, and in my opinion, the most intriguing part is that the EU theory doesn't just offer an alternative explanation to how the universe works, but it also shows evidence that at some point in our history, the entire Earth bore witness to the awe-inspiring power of this universal force. What evidence, you ask? Well, remember this guy? This is not the only figure that can be recreated using plasma. Not even close. So, if we consider the idea that the skies of old had something electrical going on, we can start to make sense of many other aspects of the stories and pictures handed down to us. Using known plasma discharge patterns and behaviors, lots of unexplainable pieces start falling into place. Assuming that something electrically monumental was happening in their sky, what was it? Now, here, my friends, is where we get to what I think is the most mind-blowing aspect of this whole thing. According to the EU experts, want to know what was in their sky? Saturn. And not like we see Saturn today as practically just another star in the sky. Saturn as another sun. And not just another sun, but the first sun. How do we know this? They told us. Keep in mind that just because something doesn't exist today doesn't mean it never existed. Take the Twin Towers in New York City. If you go there today, there are only things there that tell you they existed. But we know they did because there's probably 1 million pictures of them, as well as written documentation to back up the photos. So we know they were once there. Same goes for the Buddhas of Bamiyan, 2 6th century statues carved into the side of a cliff in Afghanistan. The Taliban government declared that they were idols and ordered that they be destroyed. They were blown up in March of 2001. So they're gone now, but we still have pictures and even video to show why they are no longer there. The same goes for ancient civilizations. The medium of documentation is different since all they had to work with was drawings, but the documentation, esoteric as it may be, is still there if we care to look. And what does their documentation tell us? Well, the stories start at a time referred to as the Golden Age. For the Hindus, it was the perfect age. The Iranians called it the age of the brilliant Yima. The Chinese, the age of perfect virtue. The Danish, peace of Aphrodite. It was paradise, the Garden of Eden. It was a time of peace, stability, and prosperity. The earth was so abundant that men didn't have to work and lived very long, peaceful lives. A time when heaven was close to earth, with one dominant feature of their sky, the great wheel of the gods. This wheel is not what we know as the sun today. It didn't move across the sky. It was stationary, and it wasn't made of just one thing. It was made of 3 things together. The first was Saturn, what ancient civilizations saw as the first king, the one king before there were any kings on Earth. He was such a great king that he is the one responsible for the paradise here on Earth. The collective memory of the greatness of the Golden Age would be forever remembered with the weekly ritual of Sabbath, the most sacred day of the week, observed on Saturday or Saturn's Day. Second is the mother goddess Venus, for the Greeks, Aphrodite, for the Sumerians, Inanna. She is usually referred to as a comet who shone in the sky with awe-inspiring beauty, a beautiful princess with long, fiery hair. But Venus has a dark side. After she is known as the beautiful princess, she transforms into what the Babylonians called the witch star, her locks of beautiful flowing hair changing into wild, chaotic serpents. Finally, third, the warrior or hero god Mars, also known as Hercules, a coyote or raven to the Native Americans, or Horus to the Egyptians. All born to fight the chaos monster, the dragon I mentioned earlier. And there are countless pictures showing these 3 planets all in horizontal alignment where an arrow could pierce the hearts of the gathered powers. Enter a guy named Immanuel Velikovsky, a Russian-American psychoanalyst and writer who went back into ancient texts of mythology and proposed a mind-blowing theory. What if, during the mythical Golden Age, the Earth was a satellite of another planet, a gas giant, Saturn? Meaning we once, within the time span of human history, had an entirely different planetary arrangement.